Joining us now, though, one of the best Republican consultant minds in America, Chris LaCivita. He's the guy you go to when the chips are down and everything is blowing up around you. Former Marine, and he was the guy that developed the Swift boat strategy. Remember that? Against John Kerry. He's won a lot of key races around the country. He was a key element in Trump's nomination victory at the convention in 2016 in Cleveland. And he's also a managing partner of FP Strategies. And we're delighted to have him with us now. Chris LaCivita, great to have you, man.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Okay, now, I'm doing fine. Let me know what is going on. What do we have to do in the Republican Party of Virginia? What were your break down the results on Tuesday, and where do we go from here?
Well, I think we've got to realize two things. You always have to, after an election cycle, sit back and try and look at objectively, do some sort of analysis of what actually happens and where, right? And I think there are two things that are undeniable. One, Virginia, from a demographic standpoint, is changing drastically, very, very, very quickly. Okay, so I started in politics in 1991 with George Allen, who was running for Congress, right? And then went on with him when he was ran for governor. I was the executive director of the state GOP from 1996 to 1999, when Republicans were in the minority in the House and the Senate, and then we won the majorities in the Senate and in the House, first time since Reconstruction. So let that sink in. Republicans did not have control of the state legislature for over 100 years. And of course, that was broken in the late 1990s. So from a historical standpoint, Republicans having control of state government is really a new thing from a historical standpoint. All that being said, we've done, while we were there, we've done some things, but we lost control of the state Senate a few years back because Republicans caved and voted for Mark Warner when he was governor, his tax increase. And, there's some people that could say, okay, well, didn't Republicans just pass Obamacare, Medicaid expansion in the House? Yeah, you could probably say that that's not a helpful factor. But I think that demographically, the state we've just seen these massive changes from Northern Virginia and all the way into the Richmond suburbs. I mean, Virginia Beach has always been a transient area by nature of the fact that it's such a military town. But looking at what's going on in the suburbs in Richmond, what's going on in Northern Virginia, and what has been going on in Northern Virginia, I think that has a lot to do with it. That's point number one. And I think the second point is that we had a majority in the House by 2 votes or 2 seats, and we actually won, or 1 seat. We actually won the majority by a coin flip 2 years ago. Literally a coin toss decided it. And then redistricting showed up, and a judge came in and redid the districts, and 3 of the 6 seats that we lost in the House can be directly attributed to those maps. Obviously, Chris Jones being, the biggest. So that's just a fact. Now, those aren't excuses, but you've got to go into it eyes wide open and realizing that okay, those are contributing factors ultimately at the end of the day, because you don't want to draw the wrong lessons. I think that, and one of the other things I don't think that a lot of your listeners would know is that in a lot of these races, Republicans actually exceeded, at least from a vote share standpoint, the percentages that Trump received or the percentages that Gillespie received. So, the turnout in 2019 was unbelievably high for what we call an off-year election. I mean, these
Wait
are
a minute.
serious
So now,
numbers.
I mean, so now we're taking the position that too many people are turning out, so we're losing. I mean,
No.
what the hell kind of a position is that?
No, and that's actually a good thing obviously from a democracy standpoint. You want people voting, and you want higher turnout. And I'm just saying that the sheer volume, the sheer number of people we turned out, in a lot of these races that we lost, Republicans received and got the vote totals that they were looking for, except that the Democrats did a better job of turning out their people. So when I say more people voted, it was just more Democrats, clearly. And again, that all has to do with, a lot of it has to do with some of the demographic changes, but it also has to do with the fact that, the Democrats were very effective in terms of putting together specific things that they want to push that appeal to their base, right? They were talking about, let's have greater access to abortion. Well, we all know what that means. Let's have greater gun control measures. I mean, these are issues that are, and then let's just wrap it up and throw the president into the mix. Off-year elections are all about motivating and turning out your base.
All right, look.
Yep.
Here's what's keeping me up at night. Maybe
Sure.
you can address it. You look at areas where Republicans got great turnout in Republican precincts, and we were looking at these numbers at 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and I was very excited coming on the air when my show started at 6, because we had in the key Republican precincts where we did robocalls to get Trump voters out. We were getting turnout we never thought we would get. So I'm like, wow, trending is good. Here's what happened. We didn't win those precincts by anywhere near the margin we thought we would. So, I mean, look, we can't look at people's ballots, but when you have a Republican precinct and you get a great Republican turnout, but then you don't win by that much, it's like, okay, Republicans were coming out and voting for the Democrat. And so, I mean, that to me, Chris, we can sit here and say they had a better model, they had better polling, they had better this, but, we can dispute all that. Obviously, they won. Everything they did was better. But what kept me up for 2 days is we got huge turnout in key, targeted, Republican-dominated precincts with a pro-Trump message where we did robocalls. And the margin of victory for Republicans was minimal. I mean, it's not anywhere what we thought it would be. And so we don't know the ballots, but you look at that and you say, okay, we got Republicans out, and they were voting for the Democrat. That's what is worrying me today, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. It does. So you could say precinct X has a history, because we don't have party, right? We don't have party ID in the Commonwealth.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't register by party. The only way that we in politics can make a determination as to what we think you identify, what party you identify with, is through your primary vote history. So if you vote in Republican primaries or you vote in Democrat primaries, that's basically our best way of making that determination. That and through other different types of things that we do through analytics. But so when you say a Republican precinct, so you're looking at a precinct that votes 67. Let's just say what I would classify as a quote unquote Republican precinct would be a precinct that votes 55% or more Republican consistently in general elections.
Right.
So okay, you pick that 55% Republican precinct. And then you call everybody in that precinct. But you're only, on the best case, your best day, it's only going to be 55% Republican in total.
Right.
But you have no clue who you're going to turn out. That other 45% may show up. You follow me? It's all in the numbers. So it's not. It's not that the Republicans switch their vote.
I get that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Look, what's frustrating me is everybody wants to say, "Oh, Virginia demographics turning blue. It sucks. Government workers. That's why we lost. Gerrymandering. That's why we lost. They spent more money. That's why we lost." I mean, okay, we can keep doing that into perpetuity, right? Now let's shift gears a second, all right, and let's go to what the hell do we have to do to be competitive in this state? Because right now we're not competitive.
Well, right. Okay, so
and before I do that, I'm going to get to a quick word from our sponsors, Kara. When I get back, Chris LaCivita is going to give us his blueprint to turn this thing around because it's very frustrating, and I want somebody to help put this debacle together. And I'm telling you, it's not Todd Gilbert. I'll be right back. John Fredericks Radio Network, you got him back. We're with Chris LaCivita, one of the major Republican consultants in America. He's won races like you couldn't believe all over the place, many in Virginia as well. So, Chris, let's get to the state of the non-existent now Republican Party in Virginia. We have no money. It's bankrupt. There's no organization. There's no leadership. They had no message. And now we're faced, the first thing we have to do is they're going to have to pick a minority leader in the House of Delegates. Then there's going to be a convention in May. This whole thing has got me just beside myself. What do we do, Chris?
Well, I think that, first off, as I had mentioned earlier, taking an objective look at some of the things that contributed to the losses. These are contributing factors. These aren't the major factors. That being said, rolling into the next session, the Democrats made clear. I mean, I think the headline in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, or at least in the headline, it said that the most progressive, right? I hate that word because that means, forward. These guys are a little different. I think radical or liberal in a generation. These are not the Democrats that, I was fighting back in the 90s. This is a whole new crew. So I think the changes that they want to bring about are going to be, they're going to do it very swiftly and they're going to do it very aggressively. And that's the key thing here to remember, aggressive. Republicans need to be aggressive. This entire year, and I'm not I'm not looking to blame anybody. I'm just, the last year, we were playing Prevent D, right? We were playing Prevent D. We were trying to hold on to very thin majorities in the House, trying to hang on to even thinner majorities in the Senate. And what happens during the course of this, where we're barely hanging on and the courts come down and rewrite our districts in the House, the governor gets busted in a huge scandal that, pick your poison. He's either in blackface or he's under a white hood. We have the lieutenant governors credibly accused of rape by two women. And then you've got the attorney general who has his own blackface scandal. I mean, these are things that would take down any politician on any level. And for some reason, the Republicans just sort of put the brakes on and did not pursue an aggressive strategy, quite frankly, to hammer the living hell out of them. That's what we should have been doing all year long. Not, we come up with this quote-unquote bipartisan investigation, and then when the Democrats decide that they're not going to play ball, we take our cards and go home. That is just ludicrous from a political standpoint. I mean, if you're not willing to take it to the mat, then you need to get out. And this is part of the problem. So I think that if Republicans are aggressive in pointing out all the problems, the $15 minimum wage. I mean, do you have any idea the impact that's going to have, not just on workers, but on business? I mean, they're going to kill right to work. So these are policies and there are things coming down the pike that we have to be aggressive. If we try to be Democrat light, we will always be in the minority. Bottom line, we have to draw bright lines and differences between Republicans and Democrats. And here's the other thing. Going into the 2020 presidential race, we have and the presidential year, the next election year, we have great opportunities. We have great opportunities to take on Abigail Spanberger, to take on Elaine Luria, and to point out that they're not the Democrats that they ran. We're moderates. Moderates don't exist. And so there's no room for the moderates in the Democrat Party. So, we have great opportunities. We have opportunities to organize, unify, and that's what we need to do. We need to take advantage of the opportunities as they present themselves. We did not do that last year.
Okay, so how do you rebuild the Republican Party? And let's start with the convention in May, Chris. And I've only got a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But right now, there's no candidate. I cannot support Jack Wilson. Nice guy. Party is bankrupt. Couldn't raise any money. Lost. Can't do it. Can't get people out to back him. So that's out. The 5th or 6th district is going to run a conventioneer, Cynthia Dunbar, Scott Sayre type that gets up every day, lives their life to sanction people like Denver Riggleman. They are going to run a candidate. We have no candidate. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. They will win.
Always.
I cannot get Trump voters out to vote for nobody against them. Sean Spicer, he wants to run for state committee man against Morton Blackwell. Morton Blackwell will get thousands of people out. We lose, they win. They will further shrink the party. That's what we're faced with in May. What's the answer to this?
Well, the state GOP plays a role, and its a role has always been, more of an organizational standpoint than anything else. I mean, we don't look for, guidance on what to do from a policy standpoint from the Republican Party, quote unquote, of Virginia. I mean, we elect people to do the public policy standpoint. So, but from an organizational standpoint, they're very important. And, look, between now and May is a long time. And the state party job is it's awful job. One of the most awful job in politics. It's a thankless job, quite frankly. But we need somebody who's a little bit, who's organizational focused. I don't know Jack. I don't know the current chairman. But it's the party has to be capable of organizing itself in such a fashion that it can be an able partner for our elected officials to help them get them across the finish line. But I just don't want to put too many eggs in one basket. We just can't look at that as that's the biggest issue. We have a message problem, right? And we have a policy problem. And so those are some of the things that we take on first. But in terms of individuals, I mean, I know Sean very well, but Sean Spicer for National Committee Man, really? I mean, Morton Blackwell's been a National Committee Man for 50 years.
Yeah, this isn't Dancing with the Stars. If Sean wants to if Sean wants to run for something, he should run for chairman to fix the party, not run against somebody that's been building the party for 40 years. Right. I mean, that to me makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and I don't know if that's even real. But I mean,
it's real. Man. I don't get on the air and tell you anything that's not real, man. That is real. All right.
Well,
that is real.
So that's really surprising. But when Ed Gillespie was chairman of the Republican Party, he did a hell of a job. Say what you will, right? Ed will have his detractors, as we all do. But when Ed was chairman of the party, he did an amazing job. Got the party out of debt. Sort of like when Randy Forbes was chairman of the party, got the party out of debt and brought it into the 21st century. and Ed was a chairman on that kind of level, and they, had done a lot. And of course, their focus was fundraising, and fundraising is what drives, obviously and unfortunately, the body politic. So
we got to have some money. Hey, man, I got to roll. We're way over our time. I'm out of time. I got to get to the bottom of the hour stuff. Chris LaCivita, thanks, though. Thanks for that insight. Thanks for being with
John.
us. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
John Fredericks Radio Network.